All right, I am looking to get started soon. I'm going to give it a minute here to let people trickle in. All right. I am super excited to talk a little bit about the nursery today. So, hello. I am looking forward to meeting all of you today. I am going to talk a little bit about how to design a safe and sleepy nursery. And I love this topic because sometimes there's just so much information on the internet and so many awesome pictures that you see on Pinterest that it seems like you have all the information you need at your fingertips, but really there's so much information, it's hard to navigate. And with all of the different products that you have available to you, those products end up not either being safe for your nursery or they're totally sleep distractions. And I know, of course, being a certified pediatric sleep consultant, I know that sleep is a huge, huge topic for my families. And it's usually it's usually a big surprise, actually, that the nursery and how I want them to set up the nursery is a big factor to having some really great sleep. So hello, everyone. My name is Mica. I am the founder and the baby sleep expert behind my company, Rested Mama Happy Baby. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to have you here. I am a certified pediatric consultant that works with families all over the world. And I actually have families with children from 0 expecting moms all the way to 4 years old. So I'm sure that tells you something, that some children really don't grow out of bad sleep. And I am going to talk about the first topic of how we can get you some good sleep related to your nursery. I'm also a new parent educator. I am specialized in newborn sleep practices and getting you some healthy sleep habits. And really, my goal is to let you all know that parental exhaustion is optional and there are things that you can do, like creating a nursery that's safe and sleepy. And as I see all of you coming on here saying hello, I'd love for you to tell me too where you are if you haven't, if you are expecting, and if you already have your nursery ready. I am very curious to see if you have your nursery ready already. All right, so today, expecting twins. That is so fun. So we're going to go over a few things. There are so many things to cover, but with the time that we have here, there's going to be 3 factors that I really want you guys to take away from. And it's around the crib, the ways that you can navigate through the decor, and the environment. There are so many options out there. So what I hope that you take away from this session is that you're able to take those rules and those guidelines and those recommendations, that when you go shopping and you add things to your baby registry, or you head out for a stroll in Target or whatever it is, that you kind of know what to look for, that's going to help you. So Have you decorated your nursery yet? And how much shopping have you done already? So I see here that Lauren, you almost have it all set up. Nursery is all ready for a baby girl. That's awesome. And maybe some of you already have baby at home. Maybe they're room sharing right now, and so you're getting the nursery ready. And there's a lot out there, I mentioned. And maybe you are really not sure after you got started creating your nursery, designing it. There's just so many options. And the one thing that most of my families are really surprised to hear is that there's actually quite a few injuries that happen from purchasing unsafe products or designing things in a certain way that end up really not being the best choice for setting up your nursery. And it becomes something that you start getting really excited about. I know with my first, I was super excited. I had all these pictures on Pinterest. And then I started diving in and trying to either find the right patterns and then getting all this unsolicited advice, first of all, of, oh gosh, you're picking that color. That's going to overstimulate the baby. And, you should really have, crib bumpers because you need to keep your baby safe so that they don't hurt themselves on the crib, and all these things from so many people that were giving me advice, which were frankly not true, and were not really consistent with what you want from a safety perspective and from a sleep perspective. So after this course, like I mentioned, you should really be able to look back to some of these key pieces, be able to create a nursery that is both hazard-free and slumber-friendly. Of course, that's one thing that we definitely want. And as you look at some of the pictures in the presentation I have, I wanted to show you how completely common it is to add all these extra things and see all these things on Pinterest that are super cute. I'm definitely not going to argue that, but end up becoming a misguide to what you should really have in your nursery. So the first one here is not so bad. I will show you some other ones that I've seen that I just thought were beautiful, but really not practical and not very good. And I will specifically point them out just to help you guys navigate through some of those Pinterest pictures that you see. So first and foremost, here's pretty nice and simple. There are two things, for example, that I see right away that I would have told my family, hey, this is probably not a great thing to have. One is maybe it's just for decor, but you really don't want any loose bedding in your crib. So having that blanket draped over, as long as baby's not in there, you don't really want that there. So keep the blankets. It's easy to spend a lot of money on these fancy blankets that you think are going to go in your crib. Really, baby is not ready to even have a blanket until they're about 2.5 years old. Before that, you want to invest in some really good sleep sacks, transitional swaddles, and keep floor play, and invest really in having a wide range of swaddles, transitional swaddles, and sleep sacks. That is first and foremost. The second thing I'm going to call out, and you guys feel free to jump in and ask questions or identify things in the picture that you might realize yourself is not super practical. But the second thing here is the lamp. So the chances of you actually needing a lamp directly over your nursery, even though it looks really cool, are probably slim to none. If anything, most of the time when baby is in crib, they're going to be sleeping, right? Most of playtime is going to happen outside of the crib. So having something like that, one, you're not going to really need that light. And two, you don't really want anything over the nursery. If you're in California like me, obviously earthquakes, any natural disasters, you don't want anything that can fall directly over baby. And something like a lamp that has glass in it is really, really not something that is safe. Exactly. Yes. The lamp, if that fell in, that would so not be safe. So yes, things like that are good things to look out for. So first, the crib. So that was one example. Let's talk about the crib. And first and foremost, you hear all the time ABC. So A, alone, B, on their back, C, in a crib. And I'm going to dissect that a little bit. So when you go shopping, you have a better understanding of what those really mean. So on their back on a firm mattress, it is something that I actually have conversations with my families all the time, whether they are in a pack and play or whether they are in a bassinet or in a crib. A lot of times I hear that or I see a picture, I do nursery assessments and they'll show me a picture and I think, oh gosh, that's a really thick mattress. Can you send me a picture of what exactly that is a little closer? And they'll add either an additional mattress cover topper, or in the bassinet, they'll add another layer, or in the pack and play, they definitely have a lot of additional mattress pads that you can actually stick on top. And the thought is that parents are scared that the mattress is too firm or that baby is uncomfortable and it's not going to induce sleep. So you actually don't want to add all those extras. And they're not approved for safe sleep. So if you're going to use a mattress, the mattress that is created specifically for that pack and play and specifically for that bassinet and the mattress that you can get that is named a crib mattress, that is all you need for baby. Do not be worried about them being uncomfortable or needing something soft. If you have too many layers on there, one, it can definitely create a hazard in being too far up to where it needs to be for that sleep space, especially if you're using a pack and play. When you add that extra 2 to 3 inches, maybe on top, right? If baby's very young, you're going to use that bassinet layer that goes on the top of the pack and play. If you add another 3 inches to that because you're trying to add comfort, that is a huge, huge hazard to having them roll off. And babies roll, they learn how to roll, and they do it very quickly, even as early as 8 weeks. So that's one. The second thing is, because they roll so quickly, when you don't have a firm mattress, it doesn't give them the best leverage to be able to roll back. So babies don't learn how to roll back and forward at the same time. Usually they learn how to roll first on their belly, and then it takes them some time to then roll back on their stomach. So when you have something too soft, just imagine yourself in a really soft bed. It's really going to be hard to roll back and forth if you don't know that yet. So having something firm and on their back is super, super, super important. So yes, it is. It's very confusing. Like I said, all those things are available online. And they'll say, they have great reviews, but they really actually have a lot of risk. So the next thing is what's going to help you with some of your shopping. Sounds like here there's some Amazon shopping happening right now. When you do go shopping for specific things like the crib or the bassinet, or even if you're traveling and you're trying to figure out, what am I going to buy so that I can not have all these crazy things when I travel? Make sure that you're shopping for things that are expressively noted for sleep. And I am going to go over some of the different things that are actually not for sleep, but they say they're for sleep. And so it's confusing. I have in the first round 5-6 years ago, purchased a couple of these things and then found out later that they're not and had to return them. And there is a nice rule about, if you are going to purchase something, it must state that it is either a bassinet, it has to have bassinet in their name, a crib, or it specifically says pack and play. Anything actually outside of those named are not safe for sleep. I'm going to talk about that a little bit after this slide. And then the next thing, there's all these beautiful pictures on Pinterest about these vintage cribs, or, the nostalgic feeling of being given a hand-me-down crib that maybe was handcrafted. And it's also sweet. Unfortunately, there's a lot that we learn over the course of the few years, and really, the contemporary cribs that were manufactured within the last 5 to 10 years are really your safest bet. So while it may be really sweet to get that hand-me-down or that vintage crib, it's really better that you choose the guidelines, and you don't know, obviously, if it's handcrafted, what specs that it's going to pass. And then 2, we are learning new things about how to keep babies safe every single year. And so making sure that you have the latest and greatest is going to be your best decision to have a safe crib. So when I talked about making sure that you actually use products that are specifically made for sleep. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you'll see cushioned loungers. So loungers, we see loungers everywhere, right? A DockATot is considered a lounger. You have the Boppy had a lounger, and you see a lot of pictures, maybe, or a lot of people around you that say, oh, just go get the DockATot and they can sleep in there and it's totally fine. There have actually been quite a few injuries around specifically sleepers and DockATots that have caused some infant deaths. And yes, thank you, Chrissy. Yeah, the Boppy lounger, 100%, was just recalled. And here's the thing. You have these beautiful pictures online, and baby is sleeping so nicely in the DockATot and the Boppy lounger. But when you get them, there is a huge tag right next to it that says not intended for sleep. Now, I do love the DockATot for loungers, but not for sleep. So use it for play, use it for a great tool to be able to stick in your car really easily when you go to grandma, grandpa's, when you are just trying to find something that you can lay down. You don't want to bring a blanket. They're great for that. But do not use them for sleep. They're not really recommended for sleep. Second is around the bed loungers, wedgers, and the Boppy, even without the lounger. And the reason that you don't really want an incline, one, it's not safe sleep approved. So that's why it's on the list here. And the second one is there is a thought, and I can tell you my pediatrician even provided me with this recommendation with my baby who had reflux. And maybe me not knowing, being a safe sleep ambassador, I've been certified to be able to educate and advocate safe sleep. I would have probably just gone ahead and done it. But she said, oh, baby has acid reflux. If you want some relief for him, you can go ahead. She said, roll up a towel, stick it behind his back, and allow him to sleep at an incline. And you might actually have heard that many times, maybe even not from a pediatrician, when really it is actually not good for them and safe for them for sleep. And the reason is, contrary to thought, that a child, if they're going to throw up or, they're going to have some spit up, they actually do much better when they are completely flat. They actually have muscles and the right reactions to, if they spit up, it actually will cause them to have it come out of their mouth. When they're at an incline, I'll do this, and they are like this, it actually gets stuck right in their throat, and that's what causes suffocation. So I would avoid using any loungers. That also has to do with, obviously life is going to happen. And what is an incline? The crib, or I'm sorry, the car seat, the bouncer, the swing. I mean, life happens. If you are monitoring them, that's where babies like to sleep, and do your best to just transition them out as much as possible, or get in the habit of knowing when their wake times are so you can transition them on their back. So get to know all these. Same with some of these other products like the Snuggle Nest Infant Sleeper. That might be okay for something that is supervised, but not something that you want to do for sleep at night. And then another thing that I'm going to mention here, you guys might be surprised, is weighted sleepers. So other products, there are a lot of swaddles out there, and it's really important to be careful that sometimes those aren't really the best thing. I would say for the weighted sleepers, first of all, they do a great job of saying that your baby is going to fall asleep really easily. There are a ton of other factors that are going to help you with a good sleeping baby. I promise you that I can share with you if you ever want to chat. A weighted sleeper, the concern around that is some of those weights are around 1 to 2 ounces. And that might not be sound a lot to you, but if your child is 4 ounces, like mine was when they were born, or even 4 pounds, and you're taking that 2 ounces, that's actually a lot for them to manage. So again, going back to the rolling on their belly and then rolling on their back, how much of that stops them from being able to be mobile. So I'm not going to say that it is not deemed for safe sleep. The verdict is out and they haven't deemed it safe. So that's what I'll say right now. So be very cognitive about that. And you know what? There are other really great transitional sleepers out there that I absolutely love. I am happy to share with you. But yes, the Dreamland baby sack. It is everywhere. Shark Tank, right? Yes. So that kind of falls into the same bucket. If you actually look up guidelines with the AAP, you'll actually see that weighted anything or CPS, the Consumer Product Association, it's not recommended for a baby to have anything weighted. So yes, it actually includes the Dreamland baby sack. Now, I would like one as an adult. It sounds amazing. And if you have an older toddler, weighted can actually provide great benefits to sleep. But for a baby, it isn't recommended. So I hope that was helpful. So you'll see here, right? It's actually a really big thing to make sure with all of these different products out there. Over 25,000 unsafe products are available online for you to purchase right now that are not safe for sleep. And there are about 3,500 sleep-related deaths just in the US alone. And most of it has to do with soft bedding. So this is just an extra reminder. In things that I get asked, well, how do I keep my baby the right temperature? I am going to talk about temperature a little bit, but there are a lot of really great different sleep sacks out there and different ways that you can dress your baby. Even doubling up on a onesie and then a sleeper if you feel like you have a really cold temperature. But I will tell you right now that most injuries actually have to do with overheating. So I would probably challenge you to really see and really check to see if cold is an issue. All right, so this is a little sneak peek about all the other things I will say that I'm going to bring together to make sure that you have a safe and a sleepy nursery. So we talked about on the back, no extra pillows, alone. Now the other things that we want to incorporate I'm going to talk about have to do with design, the decor, and the environment. So now that we have a lot of the safe pieces of baby sleeping and the product use out of the way, let's talk about the other two factors. So number 2 is the decor. Again, look how beautiful this nursery is. It is just a nursery of dreams with a whole bed, everything there. So you don't need a Pinterest fantasy nursery. It's beautiful to look at, but at the end of the day, you don't really need all those things. And I'm going to tell you why. If anything, they will actually end up giving you such a headache for sleep distractions because you have this sweet little one that is starting to join you in the world, and they've known nothing but dark black in your belly, and they are coming out, first of all, just learning that they have hands, and they're learning they have feet, they're learning patterns and sequences, and like, oh my gosh, Bo, there is a huge black thing and an elephant, and I am going to look at it every day you lay me down in the crib because I'm trying to figure out what it is. So this is great, but you really don't need that much artwork over the crib. One, it's also a hazard depending on what you're using. You really don't want to have any artwork over the crib if you can avoid it. And then, like I mentioned, we go through some of these pictures. There's a tree there. I will immediately, as a sleep consultant, know that tree is probably not something that you want there long term. It's going to be a matter of time before baby, even as young as 4 months old, will start doing helicopters. They're super mobile. And guess what happens? Hand easily goes out the crib, grabs the tree in the mouth. Even if you have a transitional swaddle. So the reason that I say so young is you might think, oh, well, my baby will be swaddled. They won't be able to go very far. So it's actually recommended that your baby is out of a swaddle by the time they're 8 weeks old. So that means that it is highly likely that after 8 weeks, your baby's arms will be out and accessible depending on what transitional swaddle or your sleep sack you'll be using. So you want to keep artwork away from the crib. You want to keep anything that's out in reach 5 feet away. I say 5 is fine. That's kind of my rule. Remove even things like the mobile. And we all want those, right? So the mobile is great. And actually, there's some that are very fancy, and I've seen make it seem like you're going to use it for sleep, but it's not. They have these cool little lights and everything. I am going to challenge you to actually remove the mobile. And yes, you're welcome. Yes, the swaddles. That is actually something that a lot of my families are surprised about when I work with newborns, is the swaddle. And when I ask them in my assessment, I do a full assessment with them to help them figure out what the right balance is for habits for sleep. And I always ask, do you use a swaddle? And then, I will speak to them, and it'll be 12 weeks later, and I'll say, yeah, are you using the swaddle? Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to get rid of that. Yes, it's because of rolling. Developmentally, they are actually capable of rolling at 8 weeks, and swaddles put them in a little bit of a dangerous situation. So I'm happy to share with you my recommendations for transitional swaddles, and I'll be actually talking about that in some of my other events. But yes, so distractions, they're going to be able to grab onto things. I would recommend that you actually move the mobile over to the changing table if you can. It is great, especially if you have a grabby child. They will want to figure out what you're doing with that diaper and pulling it. It is a great distraction tool when you have it right over the changing table, and that will be your focus. A question. So do you use a warm sleeper when they are past the swaddle age limit? Great question. So it goes swaddle, transitional swaddle, and sleep sack. And there are some really great sleep sacks that you can use all the way until they're 2.5 years old. There are quite a few out there. You can also go straight from swaddle to sleep sack, but usually families want to have a middle route there because baby still has moral reflexes and still trying to figure that out. So great question. All right. And then the last, canopies. I don't know how many times I have seen a canopy over the nursery. That is not something that you want to do. Obviously, it can get wrapped around. Sometimes they don't stay attached very well. And again, once your child starts to get mobile and they can grab things, it can be quite a huge hazard. So, recommendations, top 3 that come to mind. Let me know if you mean sleep sacks or transitional swaddles, because there's actually a difference between all of them. But yeah, I'm happy to give you a couple of them. The first, I will tell you from a transitional swaddle perspective, what is a transitional swaddle? It's basically something that is safe for rolling and gets you to the sleep sack. And my number one actually is called the Zippity Zip. And it makes your child look like they're a little bit of a flying squirrel, a little bit super cute. And you can actually use them until after they're rolling. So it's really good to know that. I use that myself. I have a 7-month-old and he still uses it. It's really great. You have to be careful because there are other transitional swaddles that maybe your baby might take to better. You really have to try it out. The other one is a Love to Dream. The only thing to know about the Love to Dream is that once they actually start rolling, it's pre-rolling. So once they actually start rolling, you have to switch to a sleep sack. You can't continue to use a Love to Dream transitional swaddle. So, or you have to have hands out. So that's one thing you have to know. So those are the two. And the third, I will tell you, there is one sleep sack that I am actually obsessed about, mostly because it's super soft, it's bamboo, and it's actually something that I gift to a lot of my families after they work with me. Is there's this little shop called Shop Millie Millie, and they have just the most awesome quality of sleep sacks. Very, very soft. And then, if you're looking for something that's a little bit warmer, they do have ones that are made of fleece. But like I said, there's actually other ways. I would recommend that you just get a regular sleep swaddle and you lay your baby instead of buying different sleep swaddles for colder times. And I'm going to tell you what you need to do so that you know whether you can check the temperature of your baby. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, before we go into environment, this is one of the pictures that I had mentioned about. So this one almost hits all of the checklist, right? You don't have too much distraction over the crib. It's away from the window, which is great. It's an interior wall. There's actually not a lot around it, and it's not very distracting. I do want to emphasize when I talk about placement here, when you're trying to design or put your crib where it needs to be. I'm sure you've heard things like don't put your crib next to a window. Some of the things that I have been told with my families, oh, well, we have it by the window. It doesn't really get cold here. So it's not so much weather and temperature that is a hazard. It's think of things like, I don't know, let's talk about Sandlot, right? Baseball going through the window, or a neighbor's ball going through a window and the glass getting shattered. Or again, if you're in California like me, if there is an earthquake and windows shatter, are there going to be shards of glass that end up in the crib? Trying to keep it away from the window is really important. And then, why do they say to keep it in an interior wall? There is actually a video that was shared of an earthquake happening, or there was a natural disaster happening, and baby's crib was on the exterior, and the exterior wall has all these extra things. I'm just going to say that, rather than just fuzzies that happen on the interior wall. So that's why it's really important that you try your best to make sure it's on an interior wall. And then, of course, free from cords. So does anyone want to guess what the one thing here that is not recommended that you see that is a hazard? I'll give it a minute. Feel free, just a couple of you, just take a wild guess. And Brittany asked while you guys are putting in some of your comments, what age can you use the Zippity Zip transitional sleep sack? You can use it actually up until 12 months, I believe, as long as your baby falls within the weight range. And you can still use it till then because it is roll safe. So as long as they fit into the weight. Yes. Yep. The bumper covers. I feel like, it is pretty commonly known that those bumper covers are not deemed safe. There's actually a huge lawsuit going on about recalling and not being able to have those sold at all. So that is a hazard. That is awesome. You guys are awesome. So don't think you need those. I know sometimes it can be scary if your child is rolling around, and they are built very durable. And as long as you have a crib that is safe, that is not something that you have to worry about. Okay, the next piece here, the final piece around putting safe and sleepy together is the environment. Yes, even the mesh ones. So the hazard around this, so you'll see here, these ones are thick, right? And this is another picture of bed bumpers or crib bumpers. Yes, even the mesh ones. Oh, that's a good point, Brittany. I actually didn't notice the chandelier. Yeah, the chandelier, you probably don't want that over a baby unless maybe it's plastic and there's bigger pieces, but you're right. I personally have a lighting piece that's made of cloth that is in the middle of the room. So that's a great catch. So the bumpers, even the mesh ones, the idea is that not just baby being breathable, but all they're connected to by are ties. So what was happening is actually causing strangulation. Once it was getting taken off, you will be surprised how strong your baby is going to be. I can tell you that by the time my preemie, who was born at 4 pounds, was 3 months old, we started calling him Bruiser because literally he could have easily, if we had one of those, pulled it off of the crib. So I'm going, no, it probably does look a little bit like a coffin. So you don't want those bumpers at all. So for the environment, the biggest tips that I have to make sure that your nursery is super sleepy is you want to keep the room cool, dark, and use brown noise. That might be something that most of you have not heard. You hear white noise all the time. And I'm going to say you have to have it cool, you have to have it dark, and you've got to use brown noise. So what are all those things? When you talk about cool temperature, you want to keep sleep temperature 68 to 72 degrees. And that might feel cold. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why having cold temperature in a room is really, really great for sleep. So when we are out and about or in the, just watching TV or whatever it is, 68 degrees is going to feel pretty cold, right? You usually put a sweatshirt on and you're thinking like, how are you going to sleep in that? When babies or adults go to sleep, their body temperature actually regulates to a much colder temperature naturally. And that is what helps us stay asleep. Babies actually drop a little bit colder in temperature, and so they thrive in sleep when it's a lot colder. So 68 to 72 degrees is really ideal. Now, if you live in the desert, or you are already in a place that's super, super hot and it's just impossible to get your baby's room that cold, or, it's just going to cause a really crazy AC electricity bill. There are things you can do. What I want you to do is just make sure that your child's core is a comfortable temperature. So we talked a little bit about sleep sacks. We talked a little bit about, what do you do when they're really cold? I want you to really, at the end of the day, check to see how your child is feeling. And how you do that is don't check their hands, don't check their feet. They will always be cold. They're naturally kind of always cold. What you want to do is you want to check the core, so their belly, their chest, their back, and their neck. If it feels like it's a normal temperature, then you're great. You're good to go. If you feel like it's clammy or sweaty, then you probably have too many layers. So at the least, I want you to check the core and make sure that baby is at great temperature so they're comfortable when they sleep. Okay. Another thing that I want you to take away from here when you're doing that, there are all these sleepers that you can buy, or all these sleeper gowns, and they're great. You don't have to put your child in a sleeper. So when you're trying to figure out what the right layer is, especially if your child is running warmer than most, or you've got a house that's really hard to get cooled down, put them in a onesie. Or if it's really hot and you're in Florida, don't put anything on them. Just diaper and sleep sack. And that's why I say that I highly recommend that you get a sleep sack that's lighter and nothing that's fleece, because it's kind of harder. You're going to need different sleep sacks, and it's just a lot more. It's better to figure out what your child is wearing under the sleep sack or under the transitional swaddle, and then layer from there in order to get them to a nice, comfortable temperature. Okay, the second thing I am going to have you take away is you want your nursery dark, 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 dark. And I usually get pictures with a note from my family to say, it's pretty dark in there. And 80% of the time will be like, it's not dark enough. So when I talk about, like I did it for the decor, there's a lot of different distractions. Your best way to mitigate that is to make sure that you have a dark room, so dark that you can't see the hand in front of you. That's how dark I want you to have that room if you can have it. So why? A lot of different myths that I also hear from my families that they're told from different family members is, well, you don't want them to have a super dark room because then that's going to be a sleep prop and they're not going to be able to fall asleep in light and wherever you go out. How are you going to have a flexible life? It's really not true. Our brains are actually structured to react to light. It's a survival mechanism that we are built. It's an instinct. When there is light, our brains will naturally start producing cortisol and start impacting our production of melatonin. Melatonin, the sleepy hormone, and cortisol is the wake-up hormone. It's the stress hormone. So if we can decrease, and especially babies are, sensitive to that, if we can decrease the amount of light that is going to impact your child, then you can actually help them sleep better. Yes, invest in some blackout shades now. You will be surprised that maybe when they are 4 or 5 months, a lot of the things that I start to see are questions coming through going, Mica, my child is waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning. And yes, melatonin production already is very low at that time, but 25% of the time it's because baby sees that little sliver of light that's coming through. And guess what else they see? All the other cool things that they have in the nursery, and then their melatonin production is impacted. If you can keep it dark, especially for nap time, that will 100% help your sleep foundations. Here's another tip too. If you want a nightlight in there and you don't think that, especially if you're doing middle of the night feedings, right? And maybe you have baby in a different part of the room, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to trip over myself. If you want a light in there that doesn't actually impact melatonin production, and you have a hatch, for example, I do love the hatch, then use a red or amber color. Definitely don't use blue. Blue is a color that does impact melatonin production, but red and amber do not. So if you need any type of light in there, I encourage you to use a red light. Okay, so here's the hand test that I was talking to you about, and see more pictures of these beautiful, beautiful nurseries. So some of the things here, blackout shades is what I saw here, investing in blackout shades. If you don't have that, and say you have baby right now and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me. I need to do something about this now. There are actually some pretty nice temporary blackout window stickers that you can get that are very, very cheap. And you can put those in while you're waiting for your blackout shades. They're all over on Amazon. You can't miss them. Blackout stickers, that's what they are. And if you really are just like, oh, I'm going to get shades in just, a week here, I don't really want to put stickers on there. Honestly, trash bags, black trash bags. So you want to go ahead and just put those on and get them as black as possible. So are blackout shades unsafe? They're not unsafe. They're actually super recommended. as a part of what you want to do to get your room really dark. Unsafe in the way that maybe if you're going in and you don't have, like if those books were in the middle of my nursery, I would 100% trip on them. Do have to make sure you know where you're going, but using that red light that I was telling you about as a nightlight or the hatch will kind of help you navigate through that. But otherwise, blackout curtains are really recommended. Now, if you're talking about placement, then you really don't want your crib too close to the window, like I mentioned, right? If you are getting shades installed, you can actually make sure that one, the installer, the company that you're working with, knows that you're going to have a baby and where it's going to be. Sometimes they don't realize that, especially if your installer doesn't have children, but they actually have child safe cords that will fall apart if pulled on too much. Now, that doesn't make it childproof, right? Because when they come off and they pull it off, there's still going to be this string that you really don't want baby to have. But they do have those. So if you're putting them in, yes, make sure baby is away from window. 2, make sure that they give you the ones that are actually child safe. Yes, they even have portable curtains. So what's really great, if you want to be flexible and still be able to have some a good environment for your child and mimic what you have at home when you travel, if you're staying at an Airbnb, for example, which I always recommend if you have a baby, just do the Airbnb because you have a separate space, but bring those portable blackout curtains that actually come in really cool bags, and then you can make sure that it's blacked out in there. But yes, those are awesome things to have in your back pocket and will help cue your child and make them feel really comfortable that sleep is happening no matter where they are. All right, so the last piece here is brown noise. And if you look for anything online, you're going to see white noise, white noise, white noise, white noise. Here is the difference between brown noise. Brown noise utilizes low frequency. And if you look at white noise machines, they actually do have brown noise. So I don't want you to go looking around seeing if you can Google brown noise and their specific brown noise machines. Your white noise machine will probably have some really good brown noise, but I want you to use that. They are going to be low frequency things like the dryer or things that mimic the womb. And the ones that you want to avoid, for example, when I say high frequency, that might sound good initially, but actually will increase cortisol and not be as calming, are things like rain, drops of rain. So you can hear it's actually not calming after a while. So how you want to do that is, if you have a sound machine now, which I do highly recommend 100% that you have a sound machine for baby. I promise you it will be a very, very sleep prop that you can have for them, because it also helps you mimic when you go on vacation or you travel, because those portable sound machines are very affordable. And then when you have them in the crib, or I'm sorry, in the stroller, and you're going around, it's very, very effective. But just close your eyes, pick a sound, and if in a few minutes you're not comfortable and it's causing some anxiety, you know that's probably not the right sound for you. So incorporating this is really, really important, and makes them feel comfortable and relaxed. And there's a ton of evidence and benefits around using white noise machines for children. Now, the yes, brown noise. So the other thing that is really important that I always get questions about is, oh my gosh, well, is the white noise machine that I have, is it going to cause hearing issues? There's no evidence that it's going to impact any type of hearing. And if you actually look at how loud it is in your womb when they're in there, it's about 60 decibels. And so you can mimic that while your child is in the room, and just make sure it's 5 feet away from the crib. So back to my rule, 5 is fine. 5 is fine. So 5 feet away from the crib, and where you want to place it is as close to the door as possible, wherever you feel like there is going to be sound coming from. So for example, if baby is on one side of the room, but maybe the door is over here, maybe you have a little area here where you can put the sound machine so we can block the noise from coming in. So again, we're protecting the sleep space and we're trying to make sure it is as slumber inducing as possible. Now, 60 decibels isn't going to sound like anything to you. There are a lot of free apps. If you're really worried about it and you want to know, oh my gosh, is this too loud? You can use something on your phone, download a free app, and you'll be able to see how loud that white noise, brown noise machine is. So let's recap. Okay, so when we talk about how we can make our space safe and sleep friendly, we are going to focus on the areas of sleep, making sure we use the right products, making sure that we don't use things. There is the crib bumper again. And you'll see they're actually a little lovey. And that's one thing. When I talk about loose bedding, I also mean things like a lovey. They're really not ready for that until they're about 2 years old. So you want to leave this space very clear. From a decor standpoint, simple is really best. And finding the minimal decoration as possible is really going to be something that is going to be most sleep inducing for your child. Mix in the right temperature and the right environment, and having it mimic the womb is going to be one that your baby is going to thrive in the most, 100%. And the one thing I will have you take away from here is really that keep it simple. You might want to fill it with things, but I promise you, having a 6-year-old almost, that room will be filled very quickly, where you are going to be trying to figure out how to take less things out of there. So start extremely minimal, and then you can back it out. So I really hope that was extremely helpful for you guys. This is why I love what I do. The nursery and safe sleep and making sure that the nursery is set up is just a small portion of what I do. I do, as I mentioned, help families around the world get sleep. Whether they are newborn, expecting, or whether they are even with a 4 or 5-year-old and trying to figure out how to get them sleeping better again. The nursery part is a small part of the whole recipe of good sleep. So this is why I love what I do and all the families that I've helped so far. And if you want more information, there's a couple things that I was gonna leave you with here today. I do provide group coaching if you are looking to prepare for sleep. I have wait lists that I provide discounts on, and one-on-one personal services if you are expecting. I do provide some discounts for expecting moms if you book me ahead of time. And for those of you that do have a baby and you want to know how to lay some healthy foundations now and learn about all the other secret ingredients that I put together related to sleep, I am actually going to have a 7-day sleep challenge that is going to be a group coaching program where you are going to work with me. I am going to go through every single detail of recipe for sleep, giving away some of my secrets on October 12th to the 19th. So there's a QR code here if you guys want to join, and feel free to reach out to me too, Mica at Rested Mama Happy Baby. I am taking small amounts of groups, and if you can't make this one, then you can go ahead and email me. I'll put you on the wait list, but it will be virtual. Modules will be provided so you can watch them anytime during the day, and then I will have live sessions where I will be answering questions. And as a free gift, for those of you who are in the middle of creating your nursery and you're trying to figure out if you have the right things in place, I am actually happy to do a free nursery assessment. So again, I have a QR code here. Go ahead and schedule a 15-minute consult and send me a picture of your nursery and I can provide you with recommended products or tips or placement. And then you'll also get a free copy of my Healthy Sleep Guide. So go ahead and take the QR code if you have any questions. I am here. I am so happy to be able to have this webinar with you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm glad this was helpful. And 2 months out before baby girl is due, there is really so much information out there. So it is overwhelming when you talk about just, the whole time you're pregnant, you're worried about the delivery, right? And just making sure everything's all in place. And then you start, going down the route, and then there's sleep, and then there's nursery, and then there's all these things. So there is a ton of information out there. Thank you guys so much, and I will meet you on the next webinar.